Is this on? Yes. Good morning to Jacques Rautenbach. Baie welkom hier by STORTKOP Confessions.
Hi, Alreen.
How are you?
Thanks for inviting me.
It's a
I'm very
pleasure.
well, and you?
I'm well, thank you. That's it. We just have to have manners even though we're still in the bathroom. Nee, ons moet nog steeds mooi groet en alles. Um,
We can try.
Baie nice. Listen, you have the biggest STORTKOP that I've ever seen. Like
Oh, stop it.
Hy's groot, hoor. Hy doen sy werkie, nê.
Baie impressive.
Baie mooi, baie mooi. Very, so Jacques, I just want you to tell the viewers about yourself and your background. So Jacques is, just for everybody to know, Jacques is a South African composer and artist and producer. And I just want you to tell the viewers about your career, what you've built up for yourself through the years, up until right before the pandemic hits us.
Okay, well, thanks so much for the opportunity, man. Well, I'm originally started about 24 years ago. I'm originally a drummer and percussionist, and I played on a lot of Afrikaans music, a lot of well-known artists, anything from Bob van Black to Kurt Darren, Giuliani, and Bobby, and a whole lot. So that was the start of it. I think I've always been involved in recording studios. So that was a big passion for me, the production side of things. And yeah, I mean, what we built up, as a musician, you work and work and work, and you try to survive and build it. I think the biggest thing you can build up is a reputation, to be quite honest.
Yeah.
Because, at the end of the day, that's going to be the next phone call. So yeah, I did a lot of recordings. Eventually, about 7-8 years ago, I decided to put up my own recording studio and started producing. So I produced some other artists' tracks, anything from anything, literally. Doing a lot of recording. And then the last 5 years, I decided to just shift my attention to my own music a bit more. So I started writing instrumental and neoclassical music.
Wow. Jacques, you're touching there on something that I also think is very important, is building up a reputation for yourself. In other words, the relationships that you have with people in the industry really determines a lot of, opportunities that you'll get.
Absolutely.
Do you have maybe one example of something like that where you met somebody and that led to other work and that led to more work, etc., etc.? If you want to, you can share. You can think of something.
Yeah, look, I mean, it's an example would be, my brother is also a musician,
Yes.
and he would, for starters, book me for, I think one of the nicest shows we did quite a few years back was with an artist named Anna Dalfel.
Yeah.
And through that, it got me another gig to play with Queenie de Villiers, for example. So that was, a lot of, and of course in the studio genre, people talk the whole time.
Yeah.
So also, again, I'm a bit out of it at the moment, but a few years back, I received a call from Maurits Lotz and to book me for a session, and we hadn't worked together in a studio at that stage. So we spoke, and I asked him why, what happened, and he said, no, well, everyone's talking. I'm one of the guys they recommend to be on a recording at the moment.
Fantastic.
So when you're in top shape, the word of mouth goes, and people phone you and say, look, I've heard about you, don't you want to come and work or do a recording or do this or that? So that's the type of thing, when I talk about reputation, I mean, I've always believed you're as good as your last performance or your last recording, because you just, if you go and watch someone and they suck that evening, I mean, it just spreads like wildfire,
Exactly.
and the opposite is likely also true. So when you really deliver and you're really on top of your game, people do see it. And even if it's, you know, one or two people that walk away that says, wow, did you see the drummer? And they're going to tell their friend. That means you are still building a reputation as musician, you know, or whatever you do. The same with production.
Absolutely.
I mean, when you produce something, you put something out there and it's really, really happening and it does well on radio and it's you know, it does well generally, then people talk and they ask who did it, you know, and they generally tend to, you know, go to that person, you know,
Yeah.
and ask them to do stuff. So word of mouth and your reputation is, I mean, I think it's actually all you have, you know.
Yeah.
That's the
Yeah.
only way for us to keep on working, you know.
Yeah, that's very important. I agree. It's totally true. We sometimes forget about it. I think, well, to get a little bit philosophical at this point, I think sometimes people focus so much on being technically, amazing and all this, but nobody wants to work with that person for various reasons. So yeah, it's like finding a balance. Um,
Definitely. And I mean,
yeah,
the reality is that even if you look at, I've I've uh, I've had to do with it lots, where you see a musician or artist and you think, well, they're not the best I've seen.
mm,
Um, I
mm,
mean, but they did the job well
yeah,
enough to be a pro, and but a lot of the success in the success in that is that a lot of them have incredible people skills, you
yeah,
know. So being a musician, artist, whatever you call it, has a lot to do with, you know, representation, how you present yourself, your people skills, the relationships you build up with people. But because at the end of the day, again, once you've made a happy client, or, you know, that client will book you over and over and over again. You know,
exactly.
so maintaining good relationships is just as important as having the skill to actually deliver what they book you for.
Mm. Exactly. Jacques, so I want to ask you about this topic, relationships in the industry. How much did this aspect of your career help you during the pandemic to maintain, work and stay relevant?
Up to a certain point, I think it did look, you've got, as soon as this happened, I mean, everyone went into crisis mode. So a lot of the work disappeared and everyone was just, you know, stopping a lot of production early on with the pandemic.
Yeah.
But luckily, or how it helped, I mean, your regular clients that were always there, they were waiting for an opportunity for everything to open to say, look, can we come, can we book, can we carry on? So
Yeah.
a lot of that you sort of were anticipating, or, you know, holding thumbs more to
Yeah.
make sure that,
Yeah.
you know, for guys to come back and start the process again.
Mm.
Because especially, you know, with the live gigs, I'm really out of that, you know, like most.
Yeah.
In the production side, you know, we sort of wait for production to start again, and that filters through to your live performances and albums, singles coming out. So
Yeah.
I think it's the last thing to, it's the first thing to go and the last thing to open up again, you know,
Mm. Mm.
because guys first start performing, and then, as you know, you need new material and you go to studio and you start producing again.
Yeah.
But obviously, we did rely on the good old faithful customers to jump in and say, look, let's start again, you know.
Yeah, exactly. I remember seeing you being one of the first musicians, you and a few others of your colleagues doing online concerts together. And, something that was amazing about you is that i- people are always scared to do their original music. It's always, well, for me, it's like that. It's like, oh, well, I don't know, let's rather do what they want. But like in a pandemic, you decided, you know what, I'm going to compose, I'm going to do my music and I'm
Yeah.
gonna record it and perform it, and that's it, and that I admire that.
Well, I
Yeah.
think the big reason was that, man, I'm just not good enough to copy anyone else. So
Good point, Nay.
decided.
Something to think about. Yeah.
For me, originality is always key. You know, whatever you do, because no one, at the end of the day, you know, it might suck. It's true, and you're always taking a chance. But you know, giving the audience something of yourself and what you did, for me, always takes preference. It doesn't take anything away from doing a gig. Some of my funnest gigs in life have been top 40 bands in whichever circumstances. So it's a lot of fun. Everyone has a great party. But if you're going to give something to an audience that actually appreciates it or listens to you, you know, my thought is rather give them something of yourself.
Yeah, exactly. How did you perceive your audience's reaction to your music during the pandemic, in comparison to before that? Because
I
everything was
think that,
online.
yeah, I think that I was, look, I only did two, but I was extremely happy with both.
Okay.
You know, we did a tip job basically.
Yeah.
And I've heard from a lot of other musicians that did the same things, that it wasn't received that well necessarily as my look, but I'm in a niche market anyway. But I was very excited about, you know, because everyone was in lockdown and everyone was sort of you know, panicking a lot. And so I think that we had a captive audience, at least to start with. You know, people
Yeah,
wanted to see new things and see what's happening.
that's
But I
true.
was very happy, you know, I got tremendous support from throughout the world. I mean, guys in the US and throughout Europe contributed, and you know, it didn't make us millionaires, but it paid the telecom bill.
In, exactly, because we need Telkom. Mense,
Because
we
we do.
need Telkom in these days.
Absolutely.
Yeah, yes, see. So Jacques, before we get to the pandemic and all the, you know, the government and all, like really the stuff that went wrong during this time, um, your career sounds like well, tell me this, why did you start doing music, like when you were young? Why did you want to do music? And from that point, um, how did you diversify? Because you sound like a diverse musician. You're an instrumentalist, you're a producer, you're a composer. Um, so you're very diverse. I think that's important also.
I think it is very important. Look, I'm going to be honest. I was 14 years and I wanted to pick up girls.
Okay,
So
I'm going to stop you there. You started playing guitar.
I'm in the shower.
Okay,
No, so
wait,
no, no.
yeah. Okay,
No, in
yes.
all honesty, I am. I mean, my brother was a guitar player, and it started for me by, you know, probably pure boredom. I picked up. I don't know what exactly, but I started eating pots and pans, and I just. Um, it's just something. I don't think you choose it. You know, I think it's something that's in your blueprint or in your soul, in your destiny, and then whichever way you get to it, but somehow it finds you,
Yeah.
and then you go with it, you take it or you don't take it, you know. But I obviously just stick to it, and a month or two later, I was lucky enough to have great parents, and they bought me a drum kit, and I started practicing.
Awesome.
Um, so yeah, I don't think I chose it. You know, it's something that's just it's a God-given gift that it's just in you, and you explore it or you don't. You know,
Mm,
so I explored it, but being diverse. I mean, I think a lot of drummers focus too much, or instrumentalists, you know, they focus a lot on the instrument, and I'm not dissing it. It's great. You know, you've got to have skills. I mean, that's bottom line. But you
yeah.
get to a place, well, I did, you know, that I just felt that it wasn't enough anymore. You know, I needed to write and challenge myself, because
Mm,
obviously doing rhythm section, you know, going from that to melody and harmony was obviously a challenge for me. So I think it was a challenge. I didn't expect, you know, when I started writing my first tune, I didn't expect it to do anything. You know, it was just me, an expression of creativity. You know,
mm,
just to probably keep myself sane. And you know, I took a chance with it, and I sent it to a few radio stations, and because we were involved in a record label for many years. So I've got some background with marketing and radio spotting and all of that. So I sent it to a few radio stations, and I think I fell flat on my back because 4 radio stations more replied, but 4 replied back and said yes, they're going to play it.
Wow.
So I was
Fantastic.
as amazed as anyone. I mean, that wasn't necessarily the idea, for me to become an instrumentalist or a composer, but the response was really great, I think, and that actually motivated me to just really go for it.
Awesome.
And then in 2017, I spent a few weeks in Europe, and after that, I knew that I couldn't do anything else anymore. I had to give it my all and all, to make it, or well, to try and make it.
Yeah.
So it's been a progression, but I mean, I think, diversify as much as you can, but, find that one thing that really makes you tick and go for it, You'll never know unless you try. So that was hoping it turns out all good.
Awesome. Which I think it has.
Yeah.
Jacques, so now the $1 million question is, how did the pandemic impact your life and your career?
Well, it obviously, I can tell you a great story, and I can probably, put it very glamorously out there. But, let's not say I won't. I mean, it really influenced a lot. At the end of the day, I think the first lockdown was something, the second lockdown, and now also this, the fact that they open up sort of, and then they close it again. The music industry is a luxury. And, and the fact is that I've always said, as with many other businesses, it's a rolling ball. It's not something that just has momentum. It starts very slowly, and as soon as the ball starts rolling, it has momentum, and then that carries the musicians and the producers and the artists and everyone to actually sustain life, But as soon as that thing is brought to a halt again, you literally start back at square one. I mean, it's literally, for a lot of guys, it's literally, okay, now we can work again. So it's literally, picking up a phone and say, look, is there something for me to do? So it really has influenced, and was quite dramatic. And like I've said, as soon as the live gigs are on its way, it's a few weeks, maybe months later, the production picks up again. So I've made dramatic changes. I mean, I've moved out of my house. We sold that, and I actually sold my studio for now. We're sort of gypsying through South Africa at the moment, taking in as much as we can, and sort of getting our bearings back together to see, where it takes us. Okay. But I mean, for me, I also knew that dramatic changes, and it's a choice as well, to say, look, we are going to make some serious changes, because you've got to evaluate, how things are. And if government continually does this, I mean, it sort of takes away your chance to actually get back on your feet again,
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Jacques, so that's a huge decision that you guys have made, to move.
It is.
Nay?
It is.
Move, sell everything. This huge. But this is how it has impacted your life.
It has.
Dramatic.
I think it's dramatic. I think we're obviously, I'll say it in brackets, we're aiming to head over to Europe for a while. But I will say that the good thing about it, I think the pandemic and all this nonsense, let's just say that predominantly loud and clear, it's all nonsense, is that I think that it's forced people to reevaluate where they are, what they're doing, and what the future is, and what the future is for, if you're a musician, you've got to thinking, what's the future for musicians, where you are, worldwide, it's a struggle. I mean, nothing is easy at the moment, but you've got to evaluate and see where you're going and see what you want to do with your life, because this has brought everything sort of to a halt and said, okay, let's see, what are we going to do?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
obviously, yeah, you have a family that you have to look after,
We
family
do.
dynamics and everything. So this, yeah, it's not just
Yeah.
music and careers, it's like the real life.
Obviously, yeah. I'm married,
Yeah.
3 children. We're very blessed, he's, hers, and ours, but we have obviously got to look after
Yeah.
them as well, and yeah, and decide, make good choices at the moment, because
Exactly.
it's, it really, I think the effects of what you choose, weighs heavy on you later. If you decided to do what we did, we will pay the price, either good or bad. And
Yeah.
if you decide to stick it through and just carry on with what you're doing, I also sincerely hope that, it works out for everyone. But I know that, just talking to friends, the effects of the pandemic has been really real. I mean, it's not easy,
Yeah. Not in any way, yeah. But yeah, the last thing I want to ask you about is this whole like, you're a musician, you're behind the scenes, you're not a famous person who has a face to rely on. I ask this to all my guests, the producers, the session musicians, the sound engineers, whoever. What avenues did you guys take during the pandemic? Obviously, you could cross over into performance because you're a composer and you can be a solo artist, but was there work for you in that context, session work, or and that, yeah, I just want to ask about that a
There
little bit.
was there was a little. I'm always trying to balance things out. And the last 4-5 years, I've really tried to put out a brand that people will recognize at least some type of genre or music with
Yeah.
me. But that said, I was excited, happy. There was some work, as soon as production starts with the recording studio. I had the privilege to do some, do some sessions and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But it was obviously very, it was much less than it was previously. But
Yeah.
there was the option to do some recordings, and here and there do a, recording, produce something. I worked with a wonderful artist in the UK, a girl that I produced an album mixed and co-produced, call it like that,
Yeah.
an album
Yeah.
for during lockdown. So that was happening, and
Nice.
then
Just hold on. Uitgestop.
hoe op aarde mens dit af?
Weet jy?
Gaan jy dit kan uit?
Ek sal dit kan uitedit. Ek glo so, ja.
Wow, hoe sit dit af?
Ek het sommer net afgegaan. Ek weet nie of hierdie ding, ek weet Zoom het 'n cut-off tyd ook, maar hy rekord nog, so dis fine. Dis nie so ietsie wat weird raak nie, nê.
Okay, maar sal jy dit kan uitedit?
Ek sal hom cut en dan sal ek hom net weer invite na die volgende stuk, iets soos dit. I'll try my best.
Okay.
Sal ons,
Okay.
ja.
Ag, sorry man.
Nee, glad
Nie
nie.
dit verwag.
Nee,
Dis
glad
wel
nie.
bloody spam op. Okay, so wil jy
Ek
vra of ek kan net weer.
Ek dink wat ek sal doen is, kom ek vra vir jou weer. Okay, so Jacques, I just want to quickly get back to the work of the musicians who work behind the scenes, the session musicians, the sound engineers, the producers, etc. You also do that, like we've stated before. And I just want to ask, what did that look like? What did that aspect of your career look like during the pandemic? I know you previously mentioned that there's obviously seasons for that. When people start gigging, then they record, and then there's work for the producers. But you said that those seasons were very little and few, but you did have some work.
There was some work throughout. I was busy with, I co-produced and mixed an album for a wonderful artist in the UK, a girl. And that obviously kept me busy some time. And then I also did some drum sessions and percussion sessions, so it wasn't as much as it usually is. But
Okay.
there were, every now and again you would get a call and there would be a session or a something. So not enough to literally sustain you, but enough to buy a bread, enough to sort of keep you floating.
I see.
I obviously also tried to, like you spoke about the tip jars. So I also tried to really promote my own music in that time. And I also, the one thing that it did for us was give us lots of free time either way.
Okay.
So, I
Yeah.
mean, I wrote two, I wrote an album in that time, and then I wrote a double album for music that was pitched for an American television series, which I
Wow.
released as well. And
Fantastic.
then straight after that, I actually started releasing. So in the past year and a half, I released 4 albums as well, and some
Wow.
singles. So
Fantastic.
a lot of that energy and stuff I just put into my own music and said, if the call doesn't come through, I'm just going to carry on working and just
Yeah,
put stuff out there. But
exactly.
obviously, when you get the call to do something or help mix or to record something, you're obviously still very grateful for that as well, because that actually keeps, like I said, the bread on the table.
Yeah.
So yeah, but it's it's a phase. It's a phase in history, and I think at the end of the day, the best you can do is to literally try and make the most of it. I mean, I know it's tough and it can be very depressing, but
Yeah. Yeah.
you've got to push through and make and do what you can.
Yeah, I think it's very admirable for people like yourself who have indulged in your music. That's a way of coping. It's like, let me just do it. Like, why not? Let me just go and do this.
Definitely,
Don't overthink
definitely.
it. Now I have to plan, I have to do this. Just start doing stuff and keep yourself alive. Joke,
Absolutely. I think
yeah,
mental health is almost as important as any other thing. So
absolutely.
instead of every morning, how you, and still do, when I wake up in the morning, you wake up, and I'm not a quick, it doesn't happen quickly for me, but I
Mm,
wake up and then I think by myself, holy cow, okay, this pandemic and all of the crap is really happening. It's
yeah,
not just a bad dream.
yeah.
And then in the next minute, you decide to either go and, go back to bed, or
Mm,
to stand up and do something that you feel might help you and others, but we
exactly.
all have that choice to make every morning. So
Yep.
I'm an eternal optimist, and every morning I would just, it would take me 10 minutes, but I would wake up and say, no, let's do this,
Mm,
let's see what we can do. I think
exactly.
otherwise I would have been in the loony bin already.
Absolutely. Like so many people are, I think, and don't know it. But anyway,
Yeah.
like me, we're in the
Well, we're all a
shower.
little loony.
What the hell,
You are.
dudes? Listen, well, that's cool. Jacques, I want to ask you one last question. Why do you want to be part of this project of STORTKOP Confessions?
Well, for me, it's not a very complicated answer. I mean, speaking to people and getting out there has always been a priority for me. And I think at the end of the day, when I heard what you're doing, I just thought to myself, flipping, it's brilliant. Someone needs to tell the stories. I mean, never mind the famous, the not famous, and the
Exactly.
in-betweeners, but the
Mm.
reality, everyone has a story, and the public out there, they're not aware of this. Somebody told me the other day, so, when I told him about the musicians struggling so much, and the person said, why don't they just do something else? Why don't they just go and sell houses or, work in the bar?
Yeah,
And I thought
yeah,
about it, but I really have a good answer. The fact is if you are going to take away music, arts, performance arts, theater, we'll cope, the world will cope, maybe for 6 months,
yeah,
maybe within a year.
yeah,
But can you imagine 3 to 5 to 30 years' time that there's no more music, no more TV, no more film, no more theater?
Yeah.
No more performing arts, no more beautiful art to look at. I mean, if you take the culture from any community, it will die. That's the bottom line. No one will actually survive. This. So I think getting the stories out there, bringing this back, getting the stories out there is actually absolutely vital. People need to listen. So when I've been asked to speak about anything like that, I'm always ready to meet you in the shower and just think about it, because people need to actually listen and hear what the stories are. I think there's a perception about music. There's a perception about musicians and artists that they're this or they're that. But I can assure you that all the musicians and artists I know work their butts off to provide for themselves and their families. And, I think if there's a opportunity to tell people and for them to take note and just to realize, what it is, and that it's normal people just actually trying to make a living at the end of the day, then it's good for public image.
Exactly that. Wow. So thank you so much for your contribution. It's always nice speaking with you. And one thing that I will say is, like, both you and Johan, your brother, you are just the kindest people. You're so approachable. Like, you helped me with logic so many times. If I didn't know what knoppies to druk and what the hell is what gaan hier aan. So thank you for that. For being kind and helpful and all that. I appreciate that about you, and all of the best for your plans in the future.
It's a huge pleasure.
Yeah, ons sal weer praat.
Thanks to you, Irene. Thanks for doing this. We're gonna share, promote, and go crazy. And I really wish you the best of luck with this whole project as well. I really hope there's a huge audience and that guys really enjoy it. And kudos to you for thinking, because I think it's really a brilliant idea. Thank you. People need to know the truth.
Yes, I just enjoy the chats with everybody. It makes me feel like I belong, and let's hope the public get to know us a bit better. Yeah, and the industry. Awesome. Enjoy your day. Ons praat weer.
Thanks, Irene. Same to you.
Bye. Dankie.
Bye.